Welcome to a new episode of the Beauty of Business podcast. Today's guest is a founder of a video production company and help businesses with their storytelling through video. Welcome to the podcast, Will.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. So yeah, hopefully you can ask some great questions and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Happy to have you. Let's just get right into it. Obviously, top of mind is AI and video, and your industry is obviously feeling the push of AI. What are your thoughts on AI and video production?
I think it's definitely an interesting one. Like you sort of said, there is like a massive push on AI and AI video right now within sort of the video space. I think it's generally it's an exciting but also kind of scary time, and it sort of depends on who you ask about it really. Because for me, I think there's definitely a lot of pros and cons to it. Like for me, um, I was at a just sort of sidebar sort of LinkedIn. I was at an event a while ago, or it might have been like a webinar or something, and someone said basically it's like the people who aren't using AI in just any industry generally are going to be getting left behind,
Yeah.
which I sort of agree with. Like you could be the best practitioner at anything you're doing, but if you're not leveraging the current tools that are available to you, then you're going to get like left behind. Another analogy, my cousin, he did like a economics degree, and he sort of they had a whole class about the spinning wheel, and then when the spinning wheel was phased out and then like industrial machinery came in, it's sort of the same thing. It was like, yes, there was a massive shift, but people were losing jobs, but people were also reskilling.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of similar with the AI video in that, yes, some people are definitely gonna feel the squeeze with it, but I think it'll help upgrade the industry in places. But where I'm using it personally is sort of within sort of my pre-production and almost sort of the sales process in a way.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like I'm basically using like Gen AI and different things to create like storyboards or images. Yeah, I haven't actually like dabbled into the video side of it, but made like storyboards and images to show to like clients or like prospect clients, being like, look, here's like a pre-viz version in images of what your video could look like, and looking to expand that into using AI video. Because there's a lot of people that aren't like obviously as creative, especially working with more corporate clients, they're not as creatively minded. So for me, I can use like my creative brain to help basically get what's in my brain into a visual so they can see it before they've given me the money.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's like it's been really beneficial for them to be able to see that before they, like I said, they've laid down money and stuff, and it really helps them. And yeah, and once again, then moving into the pre-production process, the same again with the storyboard, you just ping it to the client, be like, look, this is what we're thinking, and then it becomes a lot clearer. Yeah, and it saves you having to draw a stick, man. But sort of, I guess where I sort of don't enjoy the whole AI side of things is when it's literally just sort of being pushed and used for ads and stuff online all the time. I think we briefly had a discussion about it before the call or over text about the sort of sometimes like YouTube adverts and stuff, or even some on TV. Actually, I've seen like AI, I've been like AI generated very clearly. I think it was like a toothpaste ad or something, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is on like live terrestrial television at a very reasonable time. They're using like AI generated like ads, and I was impressed, but I was like shocked at the same time. And I think that's where it's scary, because for me that would usually go to a big production company or a production team to do, but now it might be going to an AI production team or something. So there's still money in there, but it's like it's going in a different direction, and it's sort of, I don't know, there'll be points where it will kill levels of creativity, I think. And for me, it just sort of, the reason why we love the movies we've watched or the pieces of media we consume is because of like the human touch to it. And there's often like, the reason the movie is like that is because the director intended it. Like the reason why an AI video is like it is because, it's just what the programming thinks is best. So I think that's sort of where it's sort of killing it off. And in every aspect of life, I still think we need that human touch. Yeah, especially when it comes to creativity, because it's the first thing that's always on the chopping block for anything. So
That's very true. In terms of you mentioned the toothpaste ad on television, which is mind blowing. I haven't seen that. Obviously, we've seen over the top productions of McDonald's or Burger King that actually doesn't look like anything you'll get at McDonald's or Burger King. Like real good production, but it's not reality. But as soon as you put AI into it, all of the credibility of the product kind of disappears because it's completely computer generated.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the credibility in the creative space versus actually creating the video, the content?
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about it from that sort of perspective because you're so right. Like, yeah, like you've mentioned, sort of like, especially fast food chains are known
Yeah,
for making burgers and stuff look way more edible and presentable than they ever are going to be. And they put crazy things in them to make the ketchup look more like ketchup. It might
yeah,
be like, I don't know, acrylic paint or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but like, that sort of stuff. So that's like, in a way, you're right. Like that's almost like AI generating because it's like, they're
yeah,
selling something which isn't real, but yet the actual physical product is real to a degree with that.
yeah,
But you're right. Like if you're AI generating like a Big Mac or a Whopper or something, yeah, you're right. It would totally lose its credibility because people would see it's AI generated and wouldn't believe it. But I think as soon as they see that sort of like that, they know it's AI generated. Then, like you said, they just won't believe it. But with
yeah,
the whole thing of like seeing the burger or like the chicken nuggets or whatever, there's something else bad. I guess it's just the way our brain psychology work that tricks us into knowing that that's real, and we're going to get something similar to that. Whereas like with an AI generated one, it has us, I guess the sort of the AI sheen of it would give it away. Um, I guess, and I think to a degree as well, with AI becoming more prevalent, it's just making us question everything so much more. Like every video you see online, like, is it AI generated? Is it not? Like, especially if you see like videos of like beautiful like cinematic vistas and stuff like that. Like back in the day, like on Instagram, you'd be seeing these crazy locations. People were there,
yeah.
but now you can just prompt it and like you're like, is this real? Is this not real? So it's, yeah. If anything, it's got all these things just have us questioning everything we see online a lot more. Yeah, and it's kind of sad, but equally to a degree, it's good that we're having like, it's good we're questioning stuff.
That's
To
very true.
some
Yeah.
degree.
Um, but you mentioned in the process of you creating videos, working with companies, AI is actually helping you both move faster and also helps you with the planning of the projects. How do you mentioned using Gen AI and kind of storyboarding, but going a bit deeper on that, how does that help uh the customer you're working with?
Um, from like I sort of mentioned, it helps the customer by having, for them, especially with the creativity part of it, it lets them see what my vision is for the video
Yeah,
before we've even put boots on the ground, before we've even like pressed record or anything, which is super useful. Like a sketch or like concept art can get you so far. However, it takes a lot longer. And like if you're running like if you haven't got that budget for it or you're running on a tight schedule, you haven't got the time for it. So having that Gen AI is really useful and it's something good for them to refer back to.
yeah,
And especially if you're pitching against other people, it's like, look, we can give you a full pre-visualization of this before like these other people are still they're still describing it to you and still saying they're still saying reference videos. Like I'd still be doing that as well, but that we've got like something that's more concrete and solid. Especially if I start to use Gen AI video, like I can create them a version of this video
yeah.
before they've done anything to a degree. And I also think like you sort of mentioned, it sort of helps speed the production process up a bit. Um, and even throughout like the actual production of the video, there's not really too much AI used, apart from the sort of the stuff that's already inbuilt into cameras, like
Yeah.
stabilization and stuff like that. But then when it comes to sort of post production, there's lots that goes on with editing, and then like the way like the clips get sorted, and then audio enhancement and stuff. Like it just saves you time when you're having to, instead of having to manually scrub audio to make it cleaner and stuff like that. So it just reduces the actual production time, especially in that sort of that post-production end, which obviously for clients nowadays, especially when it comes to like social content, if I'm working with some clients, they're wanting turnarounds quite fast,
Yeah.
for content. And if I can do it quicker because I have like systems in place that can help me out with this, for me, that's really, really useful. So yeah, that's sort of where I think it helps the client. And for them, like, they want the deliverable as quick as possible. They don't want to be hanging around.
You work with a lot of corporate kind of business to business type of businesses, right?
Yeah, that's sort of where we're sort of at the moment.
Yeah.
We're sort of worked all over.
Yeah, but in terms of that and the AI stuff, you're essentially working to get more clients for the business. And instead of using AI, you're actually using the people that they are going to work with, which definitely helps in the selling part of the content instead of using made up AI avatars for their business.
Yeah, like one of my clients sort of runs a they're in sports tech, and they sort of make um software that sort of does game management, like back end stuff, and they also have a watch app for like sports officials, like rugby referees and like hockey umpires and like stuff like that. And for them, it's sort of like we just go out, we go film a game of like I've filmed a game of rugby before, and you just go get a testimonial with like the referee after the game, asking them about how much their life has become easier by using this watch. And like you said, like you totally could AI generate like an avatar with responses and stuff like that. But because like my medium is so visual and having this sort of real person, like it's that connection. It's all like we say about the burgers. It's like
Yeah.
people people buy that because it looks good and it's a connection, and it's the same with like video. People buy from people because we're more trusting of people, and like people buy from people and not brands. And so they're by having this good testimonial from this one referee, like it really helps out the brand. And then you can do it with different sports and stuff. And especially for sort of like tech brands, if they're selling to a consumer, that like they want to know about how much easier the product makes their life, sort of thing, not about the actual tech jargon and components of it that make it good, like, which is often what the tech bros focus on, but arguably the end user doesn't care about that. And it's sort of the same thing. And I did some sort of internal video with this same company, sort of making they're using it for promotion, but they've also sort of used it a bit for recruitment as well, sort of interviewing their staff and what it's like to work for them. And it's once again, it's the same thing. Like doing a recruitment drive with an AI video wouldn't work because there's no connection. It's like talking to a brick wall. But then if you've got like interviews with like 5 or 6 different employees of the company saying about what a wicked company it is to work for, then that's like that builds that connection. And just once again just shows like the person, and what can also show the personality of the company, which is like massive now. Like building in public is such a big thing you see on socials. Yeah, and it's super important for companies nowadays to be like seen to be actively promoting their like company culture and stuff. And like video is the way to go about it.
Very true. What do you think the future of video production is?
That's a good question, and like I think it's a tricky one to answer because I think if you look backwards in the past, there's so many, like everyone's had different imaginations of what the future was going to be. Like 3D was massive when I was younger,
Yeah.
like 3D film and stuff like that. But it's sort of it's hard to tell. I think for the moment, in like the immediate future, I still think short form vertical is king at the moment, just because of the amount of consumption. And it's for brands and businesses, they need to look at it from a perspective that they need to be getting involved with this to be viewed as almost less corporate-y, if you will, to like a peek behind the curtain of what it's actually like. So I think the future for sort of the business side of things is people need to be more open and more sort of public facing with the goings on of their business, because people are generally just curious about it. And I think that sort of like behind the scenes look at stuff is really important. But I think for the actual sort of bigger side of production, I think it's just going to be there's going to be more. Like video is massive now, like especially with AI video. Like I think AI video will pick up some like clients and money and stuff for different things. However, I still think the uptick generally on video, if you disregard AI video, is massive anyway. So what's going to happen is, and what we're seeing is there's more and more productions, but they're getting smaller in size, i.e. that brands are now working with smaller teams or like smaller agencies to do the same thing. Like I've had friends who've worked with like Nike Swim and people like that. And when like their commercials would usually be huge, now you're filming it with like a 5-person team wearing all the hats. So a lot of people are doubling up now. Like I've worked like in TV and film, and then you're on a set with tons of people, and they all have an individual job. They're there to do one thing and one thing only. Like if you're in the camera department, you're dealing with cameras. If you're, if you're in the sound department, you're just dealing with sound. But on these newer shoots, it's a case of people are wearing these multiple hats. So you're gonna have a a director who's also doing the edit, and then you've also got a cinematographer who's also maybe doing the sound and maybe the production design. And so it's a case of the teams are just getting more and more leaner, I think. Like one of my friends like jokingly said it's a case of it's small teams, big checks, basically, which I think is so true, because the money, like the budgets are good, the budgets are really good for the team size, basically. And I think that's the way it's going to go. And that's the sort of environment I want to work in, because like as much as I've enjoyed working on these bigger sets, like and like bigger productions, being able to condense it down, distill that into like say like 5 to 10 person team, like in a studio, I think is way better. And I think that's the way it's going to go, because all that size of content can feed into the socials, it can feed into the actual commercials, and all that stuff. I think that's where it's going to be going in the next few years.
How does that look in terms of skill development? Because I imagine a lot of people are trained in just one vertical. Like you mentioned, it used to be very specific in terms of production. But how do you evolve those skills or kind of build on your existing skills to be valuable to the production crew?
I think nowadays, like from my generation, I graduated university in 2022, and I did a film production. I did a film production degree, and like even before that, I always loved like every part of the practical process. So I really enjoyed the filming, the editing, and like the technical aspects of it, and like a bit of the directing side of things. So for me, I've always been wanting to wear multiple hats and never really knowing where I want to be. But I think it's a lot for like the older generation who I've worked with on sets and stuff, who are mainly like in the film industry and like the high end stuff. They're so used to just doing one job and one job only, and really, really strict about it. And it's a case of, as I don't know if it's a case, I don't think they're the people that will reskill, because it's like they're the generation that are quite stubborn and that won't want to do it, and they will just retire or be working on sets where this is still more traditional.
Yeah.
However, with that said, though, a lot of these people who I've worked with on film sets before still are multi-skilled, because they've just learned it over the years, but just are not paid to be implementing it. They're only paid to do one thing. But for my generation, I think it's a case of, it won't be a case of reskilling. It's a case of that we already have the skills and we've been forced to skill down. So it's about re-expanding that out again. For me, it's just a case of, if you're coming into the industry, just picking the things you enjoy doing and learning to be better at them. Because like for me, like I said, I really enjoy the filming and then the editing process. And so they're sort of the two parts I'd still like to keep doing. But if you, like I said, if you like sound and then lighting or the production design of things, then just keep like focusing on that. And I think it's a case of, the people who are coming in now are really good. Like if you look at a content creator has to be good at everything. They've got to be the filmer, the producer, the editor, the marketer, everything. The producer, they've got to be everything. And I think that's it's a skill that people are now getting more and more versed in, and it's only going to get better like over time.
Yeah. It kind of puts us into the question of the day in terms of content, especially when we have social media, we have commercials on TV or kind of brand commercials as well. Quality over quantity, or what are we looking at in terms of content?
In what, as in terms of like with like socials and stuff, or just like the like just overall?
I think overall, in terms of social, obviously you should post a lot and every single day, but like from a production perspective, is it quality or is it quantity for most businesses these days?
I think from my perspective, the way I'm trying to make it lean and push it is quantity, mainly because like it's a very much double-edged sword, because if you're trying to make like something that connects with an audience and resonates and is emotional, that needs to be story based, which is often quality rather than quantity, because narrative storytelling and stuff can be quite tricky, and it takes a while to like plan it out, storyboard it, script it, and stuff like that. However, on the day to day with most brands and businesses now, if someone said to me, Will, you've got 12 months with this brand to sort this out, like to not make us go viral, but to build us like a presence on socials, what would you do?
Yeah.
I would just say consistently be showing up, and just be like I said earlier, you've got to be really transparent and human facing, and just be like authentically yourself. I think that would be even for brands, which sounds like to be authentically yourself as a big corporate brand with hundreds or thousands of employees, yeah, quite hard because everything has to run through a legal team. But in like a perfect world, that sort of level of transparency and showing what's going on, and like the characters that you have in your office, who are like, who are the people that like making you smile, or all these different roles and stuff, and like what they actually do is what people are really wanting to be seeing. And so for me, it's about showing all of that, and then there's one aspect of it, sort of like this behind the scenes, like almost it is like like The Office, like it's the case of people like those characters because there are these, like you had like the jokester, you've got like you've got the boss and stuff like that. So you have that side of things, but then if you're actually talking about the actual product and the things they're selling and stuff, once again, like I mentioned earlier with the rugby video, it's about, once again, the human aspect of it, getting them connected with their people, like their actual target audience. And for them, it's about, as much as it's about posting the amounts of content, it's also about knowing where to post it as well. Like you need to be hanging out like in the spaces online where their audience is at. Like if you are, I don't know, if you're sort of trying to, like if you run a business which has retirement homes, you're not going to be posting about it on TikTok. Like I think you're more likely to get more traffic from somewhere like Facebook, because that's of the generation. So for me, it's sort of about knowing where people's audience is at, but then also, like, I think I'm diverging away from the question, but for me at the moment, if it was with a brand, I would go quantity. I'd go quantity over quality, because it is about brand awareness and about being in people's feeds and in their faces all the time. If I was doing something for TV, like a commercial and stuff like that, like a good story-driven commercial or like series of things to go on YouTube, like a docu-series, would be better than posting multiple things. But then once again, even if you are making this commercial, have someone filming behind the scenes for you, so you've got this like this other aspect of it. So it's a horses for courses situation. But yeah, that's for most brands and businesses at the minute that aren't doing anything at all, I would go for the quality. I would go for the quantity over the quality.
Yeah, I think TV commercials at the moment is a very interesting subject, because I've not been watching much TV, but some on the weekends, like actual live television, not streaming, and the commercials are usually horrible. It's like, what are you trying to tell me? Why should I buy your product? It's just, I don't know what they're trying to advertise or kind of make known in their commercials. It's just, I don't know how these things go through pre-production, production, and then launching.
Yeah, it's a lot of corporate stuff. I think it's a case of that they probably had a really good message and good idea to start with, but it's gone through so many rounds of revisions and through all of like the corporate departments, like the legal department and stuff, that all the creativity and the juice has been lost. And I think that's often what a lot of brands struggle with, is that they have a really great idea, but because of the processes, like the actual messaging and all this stuff, just sort of gets lost in the corporate source pretty much, which is really sad, because often there's probably like a good idea in there, and yeah, it just takes so long for it to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's why it's often I find better working with these smaller companies who are, like 10 to 15, maybe 20 people, 50 people max sort of thing, because they're more lean and they're more flexible with what they can get away with. But yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. But yeah, you're right. There's so much sort of weird corporate ads and stuff. I think it depends where you are around the world as well. Like there's
Yeah.
some ads in the UK that I watch them sometimes, and I'm like, that's actually really good. And then there's some of the other ones I'm just like, this is terrible. And then I see some like, you scroll on Instagram or TikTok and you see like, oh, top 10 crazy American ads or something. I'm watching these. I'm like, how are you getting away with this? So it's, yeah, once again, it's crazy.
Yeah, because I sat through, don't even remember the brand, which is a testament to how bad the advertising is. But I sat through a whole minute ad in prime time on Saturday, and I couldn't tell you, I don't remember the brand. I don't know what they were selling me. I don't remember the story. It's like nothing. And you've spent a lot of money on the production, but then placing it on TV 4, 5, 6 times on Saturday night as well costs a lot of money. So I'm like, okay, if you spent all of this and I can't even remember you running an ad, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, you've got to have a level of memorability to it. I think, like, the thing that people often get excited about, like, it sounds like a weird one, but like the Super Bowl in America, like they spend so much money on ads, it's crazy. And everyone, you often see the next day, like, or on LinkedIn, the top best ads
Yeah.
that of the Super Bowl, and often the reason is because brands are spending all their money on this, and they're making these sort of more narratively driven commercials for this thing because they've got the most eyeballs on it. And I agree, you do get some really great ads out of it because of this, and like you get this sort of this narratively driven stuff. Yeah, but then like you said, they spent all their money on that, and then for the rest of the year, then it's just back to the stuff that's sort of
Absolutely.
forgettable and not memorable. So, but usually, if you've got the money you're spending on a Super Bowl commercial, then you've probably got the money to be making pretty good ads throughout the year.
Yeah.
So if they're terrible, that's just on you.
So, why is video so important to businesses? Obviously, the content side of things, being on social and visible, all that stuff, we know. But like video in general, why is it so important?
I think because of sort of like the messaging and just the delivery of it. Um, like I've obviously mentioned with the whole like content side of things, like video's big, and I think video's big regardless because people are just video is a format that people are gravitating towards a lot more than anything else. Like you think about how many screens we have, and places that things can be viewed, and just a moving visual component is great, and storytelling. It's a great way to connect with people in a story driven manner. I think cinema has been a thing for just over 100 years now. When you think about it, it's not very long at all. Um, and think about all the great movies and things that have come out in the last 100 years. Like that's from a moving image,
Yeah.
like perspective. Like yes, like a photo can tell 1,000 words, but think about how many a video can tell you. So I think that's why it's so important, and it's a way of truly connecting with someone. And like you said, like if there's a memorable ad, it's really really good.
Yeah.
And like as much as like print and like still image like promotions and stuff for brands are really good. Like you can get some really creative ones. Like I remember sort of the Apple one, when like for the original iPod and stuff like that, and like different things. But often the thing when I think about like advertising and stuff is often the video stuff. You think about
Yeah.
like we mentioned like the ads and different things like that. And I think it's a way of connecting with people. And like nowadays there's just going to be the video is just going to keep going up and up and up, I think, regardless of if every social media platform disappeared tomorrow, and stuff like that. There'll still be a need for video. And yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I think yeah, storytelling and connection are the two biggest factors when it comes to that. I think you're just able to do it a lot better through a medium like video as opposed to photo or text.
So, how do you actually produce video for your clients? Like, take us through the process from start to finish.
So if we were sort of making a video, say with you right now, I don't know, like a podcast promotion or something, it'd be a case
Sure.
of having like a chat sort of about the deliverables, what it is you're looking for, Yeah, sort of all the basic stuff in pre-production, sort of like the deliverables, what it is you're looking for, the timeline, and then important stuff like the budget. And then we would sort of go away, crunch some numbers, and then, you know, find something that works. And then we'd then obviously sort of get to the pre-production part of it, depending on the type of video, depends on sort of the levels of pre-production. Some of them is sort of very minimal, and then other ones can be a bit more. So then it'd be a case of it's if it was like, would say we're filming it in a studio, or say we're organizing a podcast shoot, like an in-person podcast shoot, we sort of, you know, sourcing the studio, and then I'd then probably send you some examples of maybe the types of lighting that might be available for us to use, and then we can set it up from there. And then it'd be like the shoot day would roll around, and it'd be a case of we are then on location, setting things up, getting ready, testing the lighting, or even before that, we'd probably test, like I said, test the lighting and stuff like that to make sure it's something that looks really nice and cinematic for the actual shoot. And then if we were helping you with the whole production process, we might have done, I don't know, we could help you with research and stuff if that's been something else you want to do, or like a lot of podcast hosts like doing it themselves. But yeah, that's like, that'd be an option. And then it'd be a case of, you know, filming the thing, doing that, packing it all up, and then back to the edit. And then it'd probably be a case of, you know, giving us the turnaround time we need for next week, chop the edit up, and then give you like X amount of short form deliverables with it in terms of that sort of production. And then it'd be a case of throughout this whole process, like communication between us, because I think communication between yourself and a client is absolutely massive, because there's so much stuff that can get lost in translation that from my perspective, like I just assume something because of the way something's worded or something. And then the client will be like, oh no, or the other way around. So yeah, having this sort of communication is very important as well. I think client communication is huge. Yeah, and then it's sort of a case of usually, like if it was a one-off job, it'd be a case of, right, can we grab a nice like testimonial or something for the website and like a Google review, and then sort of going from there. But it sounds all pretty straightforward. When you're doing it, it can, you know, it's quite, each step is really important. And I think often with video, you can often get lost when you look at a whole product thinking, whoa, this is massive. But then you have to sort of just break it down more granularly, because at the minute I've been doing a massive editing project, which has been like 52 videos. And if you look at it like a whole project, you're like, whoa, this is a huge, how am I ever going to do this? But then you sort of start to break it down more, like week by week, day by day, and it becomes a lot more manageable. And it's the same with any sort of production, like regardless of the scale. It's like, right, let's take this step by step, and then we can sort of calculate and figure out how we're going to do this.
Makes sense. In terms of the final product, does the client have any kind of revision rounds, or is it just delivered, done?
Yeah, sort of with video, because it is a tricky, it can be, it's yeah, you know, it's horses for courses. It's like everyone has their own taste. Yeah, I usually include a couple rounds of revisions with the price. And we go from there. So if, like, you know, the client wants to change the shot, or have you know, or something a bit more like that requires more shooting, like other than a podcast, like, you know, like I filmed a golf promo recently for a golf course for their landing page, and it's like, oh, could you maybe, have we got any of these images, or could we just swap out a drone shot and stuff like that, or could we add like a text here and stuff like that, which is usually like a little bit of back and forth. But then after that, it's like you then become paid revisions, because you have to, as much as, you know, you want this video to be great and a good creative work, you have to put your foot down. Because if not, people just start taking you for an absolute ride on revisions, which you don't want. Like there's levels to it. Like if it literally asks you to, like, can you remove one word here, and it's going to take you like 10 minutes, like I'm probably not going to shaft them for like another like half day edit rate or something like that. That's a bit mean. But yeah, there's totally like there's totally levels to it as well. Yeah, and something I found with that as well is that like good, like the difference between like a good and like a bad client, and then like respecting the boundaries of like the edit and stuff like that. The one thing I will decide on with a client before a production is like music choice, which sounds really weird, but like the joke in the video world is that like you'll send off the video, and the first revision they'll come back with is, can you change the music? To which is literally like,
you have to change everything. Yeah,
kick in the teeth. It's like you have to change the whole edit if you've synced it to music. It's like they're like, oh, it's just you just change the music. It's like, no, I have to this is a complete re-edit.
Yeah.
So for me, I have it put in my contracts now that I we decide music before this shoot, and then that's locked in, because if you have it changed as a complete re-edit, you can have it changed, but I will charge you for a complete re-edit. So so yeah. So if there's any like people who are looking to start a production like company or do video, that's a massive thing. Discuss with a client beforehand the music choices or the style of music you want, and lock it in way before the edit, or lock it in before you've actually started the production process. Like, you could do the shoot and then do like pick the music, but as long as that's in before you've started the edit, you're chill. Like that's like one of my biggest tips, because I've had it so many times before and it just makes you cry.
Yeah, we forgot to put we built a website one time. We forgot to put the revisions in, so we usually have like 2 revisions on the website. We forgot to put it in the contract, so we went like back and forth 8 times on the same, and it was not a big project at all. And I was like, okay, we fucked up. This is our fault. But
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, and it makes you think about all the money you could have got from it as well. And you're just like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally with you. Being stuck in revision jail is the absolute worst. And it's like when they start getting really, really granular, it's like, oh, come on. Like I did a job semi recently, for a pretty big like corporate, no, not even corporate, pretty big company that sort of sent me some. It was more like on a UGC content creator basis, to make some videos for them about some product, which I sometimes do for like, it's not necessarily fully part of like the production business, but I just do it from my perspective, from like a content creator perspective, and but I still treat it like a client project. And they were like, oh, how much do you want for this? And I can't remember what I said, but they're like, I was like, this is my money I want for each video. And they're like, yeah, cool. And then I delivered them these videos, which are actually surprisingly like a lot trickier than I thought they were going to be. And then they basically said, oh, can you change this? I ended up doing like a good few reshoots to finish this project. And I was like, oh my goodness, this was arguably, when I got it, is one of the most fun projects that when I first got it. I was like, oh, this could be so much fun. And then and I filmed it totally at home, like in my office and outside. And I was like, oh, great. And then it just like turned into this thing that was so frustrating. And also because what was also annoying was because where the client was based, I think they're based in Australia, that trying to communicate with the client was such a pain as well. Once again, go back to communication, like this was a kicker, because I had a content portal which I was having to upload my videos to, but then I was also talking to people through their Instagram page, and I didn't really have like a go-to contact, which I was asking for the whole time. So I was getting like, I don't really know who or where the revisions were coming from. They got uploaded to the portal, or they might have got sent to me via Instagram. And it was like, I've had all this information coming in from 2 different sources. I'm like, guys, just like, what's going on here? And it was so annoying, because I'd only be able to get to message them like late at night, and I might get 1 or 2 messages in the night, and then have to wait like another 24 hours so I can message them again. And it was like, oh, but yeah, that was annoying. So, but we got it done, and they were happy with the videos in the end. But from my perspective, it was a job that I thought was going to be like, quick, like few day job, nice money in the bank. No, pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's horrible when it happens, and it's just, it's way too much time for way too little. What do you think most people get wrong about video and content?
I think it's what we sort of talked about earlier with the whole corporateness of it. I think the problem they don't get is they are trying, like I said, they're trying to sell their product too much. Like I said, they're really trying to sell, like, especially if I'm talking about tech, they're really trying to sell all their like, oh, we've got 300 gigabits of whatever storage, or like all these crazy jargon terms. And like, they're so happy about it, but that means nothing to the end user. And that's the problem. People try to sell too direct, and that's a massive problem. People don't want to know they're being sold to. Like, every time like a YouTube ad comes up, people are like, oh, or every time you scroll on socials and you get an ad, you're like, oh. But if you see like a really great like brand integration with a video and it doesn't feel like an ad, then it's way more fun. Like
Yeah.
you don't realize you're watching branded content. And it's the same thing for brands. They need to work out a way that makes it more fun. And like this is what I said about the whole like behind the scenes and stuff. Like you're not selling your product directly, but that brand awareness is equally as important. Like it might not lead directly to a sale, but you know, having that awareness might later trigger something when someone's thinking about car insurance or something. And they're like, oh, we saw those people talking about their car insurance business on like TikTok. Why don't we go see them or something? And I think it's the same. Like I worked at I used to run socials at a gym for a few years, and I would be getting really creative with the ideas and stuff, and like oh, we should do this, we should do this, and it'd be really great. Like, you know, show off how great the classes are, the gym, like the pool, the hot tub, whatever. And they were like, oh no, we just want you to post. We didn't want you to post like a Canva post saying, oh, no joining fee between December and January or whatever. And I'm like, or like half price off membership this month. And I'm just like, that's like, you're not going to get signups from that because it's too direct.
Yeah.
People don't want to know they're being sold to, and it doesn't work. Whereas, like I said, like I just said, if you have this sort of more storytelling aspect or make it feel like you're not being sold to, that's what brands are doing wrong, and that's where a lot of brands need to sort of step their game up. Is, you know, I think, yeah, just trying not to directly sell to people, do it more inadvertently. Like I think there's still times where people do want to see like a 50% off clothing
Sure.
or whatever. Like especially for e-com businesses, like that does make sense to a degree, but they can still do it in other ways. But it's for the more like it's like things like I said, like a gym or like an insurance company or things like that that really have to try and make it work better. Like a friend of mine, his production company, uh, they work with QuickBooks a lot, and they've basically built their whole YouTube channel um up. And it's like, you know, QuickBooks. I'm sure everyone who's listening probably knows what QuickBooks is. Like just an accounting software for freelancers and people like that, which is really great. But trying to sell an accounting software to people is probably quite tricky. And so their sort of approach is let's sort of make it more YouTube friendly. So
Yeah.
they sort of do like Jubilee style videos of like, oh, they'll get 3 or 4 YouTubers on a panel and then they have to guess the freelancer based off like off the panel, or pick the person who is, I don't know, yeah, like the content creator or something out of like a lineup. And that's like so much more engaging than like a 30-second YouTube ad being like Black Friday sale, get QuickBooks for £1 every
Yeah.
month or something. And yeah, I think that's sort of the direction people need to be looking at and like focusing on and like thinking about, especially for corporate brands, like getting, if you're a corporate brand who isn't tailored to be sort of people facing, like something like QuickBooks, find a way to sort of leverage like fun long form content like YouTube would be sort of a good start.
Yeah, I agree. And we see more and more brands doing that, which is a positive. Um, I don't think all brands, especially I talk a lot about like luxury, high-end, kind of premium brands or legacy brands. And I think all of them should be more attainable or more available across all socials in terms of content. But there's definitely things they could do, like Rolex could show more in terms of their production or uh, more storytelling in long form video, which they don't do as much. But for most brands, obviously, this is the way to go.
Yeah, it's the way of the world. Like I think you're right. Like with people like luxury brands, they're so like you don't hear about them. Like it's almost like a famous celebrity who likes to keep themselves to themselves, which is
Yeah.
totally fair for those celebrities who like doing that. But with a brand like Rolex, who are so well known and out there, I guess maybe one of the reasons why they don't do it is because would it diminish their brand?
Yeah.
Like would like everyone knows Rolex because they're Rolex. Like you say that and you instantly associate it with wealth and, you know, money and affluence and fast cars and then, you know, and that sort of stuff. And so maybe for them doing that, would it diminish their brand? But it depends. It depends how they push it to a degree. However, something like a long form 20-minute YouTube video, the behind the scenes process of how they make like a date just Rolex or something would be amazing. Like all the people who are like massive watch nerds would love watching stuff like that, and especially if it comes from like an official channel like that. I'm sure there's tons of videos on like people taking it apart and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But to actually get like a behind the scenes look at it would it is crazy because like I've seen clips of people like I think I'm not interested in buying like luxury watches or anything, but I've seen people like taking them apart and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, and so to actually see it from them would be amazing. And it's the same like you said for like these other sort of crazy like legacy brands. I get the same like people like Louis Vuitton
yeah,
or like car companies like Ferrari and stuff like that. I think they're getting better at it mainly because of how big things like Formula One is now,
yeah,
which has a lot to do with it. But yeah, I think those brands, if they could lean into it, would be great. But equally, maybe they don't need to because they have a lot of people doing it for them. Like a few years ago, I became obsessed with like this guy on TikTok who just sold watches in the Diamond District in New York. And I was like, I had no interest in buying a Rolex at all. Do not have the money to buy a Rolex or anything. And I just found it so fascinating. This guy just walks around shop to shop with like thousands and thousands of dollars of Rolex in his pocket, just walking around selling them. And like I knew nothing about it, but it was pretty cool to like it made me want to go there and like just even
yeah.
look at them or like even thinking about buying one. And like that had nothing to do with Rolex the brand. That just had to do with a guy and his mate with a phone walking through a diamond district selling watches.
Yeah, and I think some of it is what you mentioned in terms of like there's other people making content around the brand, which gets a lot of eyeballs. Like you mentioned Ferrari as well. It's just like the car edits on TikTok or YouTube videos going way too deep into each single car. It's the content's there. It's just not from them. But it would be interesting to see like they dive a bit deeper into the content production and kind of giving a bit more insight while balancing it in terms of diminishing brand equity.
Yeah, I'm sure with stuff like that, with like diminishing brand equity, there's got to be a tipping point. There's got to be a
Yeah.
balancing act of it. Um, I think that's definitely a way of looking at it. Like I definitely, it could be a case of only doing X amount of videos or something. And I definitely think that they would be able to judge it really well. I guess it's the same with sort of movies, I guess. It's a case of that like with things like Marvel, everyone's like sort of like, we're so fed up with like superhero movies now because we've had so many, which I
Yeah.
totally understand. As someone who's like a massive comic book nerd and like a superhero fan, like I'm with it now. I'm like, I'm so invested in it, I'm just going to keep going. However, it is a bit of a diminishing return. It's like people are sort of a bit fed up of it now. But if you sort of balance this out a bit more, like the demand versus the supply would eventually sort of like even itself out, and then you wouldn't have this diminish. You've got people like obviously chatting like shit about the brand now because there's too much of it. But if you sort of like limited it, sort of like if Ferrari or Rolex made content, it'd be the same thing. It's like if you gave every single person access to Rolex or whatever to make this content, it would maybe diminish the brand. But
Yeah.
if you like give it to a certain amount of people, then it sort of balances itself back out again. So I think that would be a case of maybe looking at it. Yeah, and once again, I think it's the same for the film industry. Maybe the film industry needs to look at things like Marvel and look at that, being like, maybe like we have a bit of a diminishing return on this. Why
Yeah.
haven't we stopped it? But I think it's for them, they're just too deep into it now and it's too late. But for these legacy brands, they're not. They can look at it already and adjust it depending on stuff like that. And yeah, I think it'd be a good way to do it. But we are starting to see more and more of these brands starting to launch YouTube channels and stuff like that. And even like I mentioned famous people earlier, like I think it was Ronaldo launched a YouTube channel a few years ago and like it like blew up overnight. And it's just like it was essentially like a Ronaldo vlogging channel.
Yeah.
But it's the same sort of thing. It's like these people who we never had access to before, apart from when we're watching them play football or do interviews or win awards, like and we now have this crazy access to them. So yeah, I think that's sort of a potential way of sort of looking at it.
Yeah, and I think like if you take Ferrari and you make an event of it every time they launch a video, let's say they launch a video once every month, which is a low volume in today's video age,
Mhm.
and kind of build it up to an event and then just go deep on one aspect of the brand, the car, the story, or whatever else. That would probably work. Um, the problem is if they start like posting Ferrari vlogs every other day on YouTube, then it would be like, eh, nah.
Yeah, I think that would leave a level of diminishment like
Yeah,
around it. Yeah, it's a bit, it's like it's totally a balancing act, but equally they might launch a video or like a car, but then invite loads of creators to the event
yeah,
to make content around it, which is a little bit different because it's not, it might not necessarily be going across their socials. But like I said, it's the same with like the Rolex and the watch guys selling stuff in New York. It's like they've got this, they're having people doing the brand awareness for them, which they know, hence the reason they invite them. So yeah, it's a case of they can, or even better, they drop a crazy video, like a crazy documentary or something, once a month or whatever, and then they invite all these YouTubers and then like TikTokers and influencers and stuff to these who are in the car space to the event, and they just do the talking for them. So yes, they only post one video a month, but there's hundreds of these other videos that are going that are surrounding it with it, and it's the same can be said for other brands as well. It's like the problem that a lot of people do is they'll make one piece of content and use it once, and that is like it's like a problem. It's like buying, I don't know, it's like buying a saucepan and using it once and throwing it out. Like what a waste of money. It's like you can totally be doing other stuff with it. Like the first time you post it, say it gets 100,000 views, then you could repost it again in 3 months' time or however many days or whatever, and it might get another 100,000 views. But the chances are the same 100,000 people aren't going to have seen it twice. So it's like 200,000 people have seen the video, but people just think, oh, all my followers have seen it. Definitely not. And there's a case in point that people should be using and recycling content. And I think it's a massive thing people need to be doing more of. And also just getting more value into their content. Like one of the things I talk to brands and businesses about is, look, we can help you make long form YouTube content about your brand or your tech startup or whatever. But they're like, oh, but I'm not actually thinking about starting a YouTube channel. I'm like, okay, cool. However, in this 10-minute YouTube video is going to be, say, 5 to potentially 10 like short, like 30-second to a minute long clips that you can then use for socials, like you're doing with this podcast right now. It's like the chances are that, like, the percentage of people that are going to watch the whole thing is going to be lower. But if you split this up into 10 60-second clips or whatever,
yeah,
like more and more people are going to watch it. It's sort of like when I used to work for a podcast, it was the same thing. And so it's, yeah, people need to be looking at it from that perspective. Like you can get one long form piece of content, but in it you can get all these micro pieces of content. And now with AI, this is another thing I sort of talk to clients about. Like, look, you can then transcribe all these and then make it into a blog post, an email, a LinkedIn post, or something to do with copy, as well. So from one long form 10-minute YouTube video, you can be essentially getting like 21, 22
yeah.
plus pieces of content from one thing.
Yeah, it's great. We repurpose it, just like you said. We slice it up to short form that goes out to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and then the whole podcast goes to YouTube and audio as well. And then we write blog posts and emails about the podcast as well. So it's just like so many pieces of content just from this hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. And that's the thing that a lot of people aren't like leveraging enough of, I don't think, at the moment. It's like they have all this available to them and it's like, oh man, you're just forgetting about it. But it's like, yeah, they shoot it and then just put it in the bin or like just forget about it and stuff. Yeah, and there's so much people can learn from it. And it's crazy, like things that you don't think are going to be good pieces of content that just turn out to be absolutely great pieces of content. And it's like sports do it all the time. Like game highlights have always been a thing from football and stuff for years. And it's like, why would you not be doing the same thing with content and socials? So,
in terms of creativity, where do you find yours? Where do you source creativity?
oh, I'm just an absolute savant. It just comes to my brain. No,
Just so
just
easy.
sort of, just sort of all over really. Like I'm a massive sort of like film nerd, so I'm constantly at the cinema. So I'm constantly sort of looking at that sort of side of things. As much as like I'm not as much in the film industry anymore, there's still a lot you can take inspo from, especially
Yeah,
like, shots, lighting, music decisions, editing, that sort of stuff. And then just socials in general. Um, like, watching other people's content and seeing what they're doing and things like that. But then also like more recently, like I've been blocking myself off TikTok and Instagram during the day on my phone so I don't doom scroll.
Yeah.
And if anything, I've been like, as a result, I've seen people's content a lot less, which is in a way sort of been kind of good because I've been it's been letting me think about other pieces of content ideas in my own way. Um, like I was chatting with a friend about something like a few weeks ago, and then I was sort of, oh, maybe it's a video idea and that. And like, you know, it might not have been an idea if I was like I might have still thought about it even if I was scrolling Instagram and socials. But like I think that as a result of me sort of independently thinking about it because I hadn't been on socials as much, like, you know, it sort of came to my brain a bit easier. So I think there's pros and cons and places you can find stuff. And like even like I might just be walking around or like just have my camera out with me and you're sort of like looking around just in the world for inspiration. I think that can be big as well. And just bouncing off other people's ideas, I think is huge as well. And can often be a problem when you're first starting out like a company by yourself because it can often be just you. So the people you have like as a sounding board is not as many. But then as soon as you start speaking to other creative people, you can sort of like bounce these ideas and it just sort of snowballs and gets bigger. Yeah, I think it can come from everywhere. And even like just things like, it sounds really cliche, but like art and books and stuff like that. Like I mentioned earlier, I read a lot of comic books and there was like a really great like panel that I saw and it had like some really great lighting and I was like, oh man, that'd be so cool to try and recreate that. Like, I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, a lot of my work doesn't necessarily lean into that sort of like creating this crazy sort of like fight lighting from like a comic book or something. But I'm just like, oh, that's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so you have to sort of think about things like that. And also just especially with different things like lighting techniques and stuff, it's about just trial and error, I think, and just like I think that helps out with like growing creativity and like failure as well.
Yeah.
Like people like everyone's like, oh, I hate failing or whatever, which is, yeah, people don't like it, but it's like you learn, like get such great like lessons from like failing and stuff. So like if you like mess up a lot, like how you're doing lighting and stuff, you like learn from it the next time, or you mess up XYZ and you sort of try and problem solve it. Yeah, so I think that's another place where creativity can come from as well, just sort of like making mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people say on film sets like they have a lot of happy accidents. So it's like something will happen on a film set which wasn't necessarily intended, and it'll be like a happy accident. I remember hearing a story, just a quick sidebar, like about a film called The Florida Project, which was directed by a guy called Sean Baker, who actually won the Oscar last year for Anora. Anyway, he it was a movie. The Florida Project is a movie about two kids who live in a motel right next to Disneyland in Florida, and like they're quite poor, and it's told from the children's perspective. And there's this great shot, and it's also the shot on the poster of this sort of like rainbow going over the motel. And basically they had like a hurricane. It was either a hurricane or a rainstorm or something, and they had this perfect moment where this rainbow appeared, and it was bright sunny, and they quick roll the cameras. They started filming all these scenes. They had a few minutes of this rainbow going over, and it's like the perfect rainbow. And then they got it, and they used it in the movie, and it became the poster, and it's pretty iconic. And they said, I think Sean Baker said afterwards, like, if we were to do that in post, that shot alone would have cost like more than our budget or something. And I'm like, see, that's crazy. Like, that's such a happy accident. So things like that really, like, you know, right place, right time can help out with creativity too. So
yeah, there are a lot of those. I remember, I think it was last week, I just saw a clip from Django Unchained, where Leonardo DiCaprio smashes the table. And he actually starts bleeding, which wasn't obviously in the script or anything, but he keeps acting. And that got into the movie and the scene, and it just looks so much better and looks so much more real because it is real. And that is just another happy accident.
Yeah, I think like happy accidents can be like across every form of sort of like business and stuff. Like you might be doing something, you're like, oh, maybe this wasn't supposed to happen, but then it can be like the idea that triggers the next product or something. That can like you want to think about inventions and stuff throughout history. It's a case of people doing stuff and then just discovering something that works together. So yeah, it's a case of like once again failures and like these happy accidents are the things that can often be like the greatest inventions. So
it's oops, wow. It's
yeah, oops, wow. Yeah, that's good. I like that too.
awesome. We have a final question to our guests on this podcast. And the question is, what is the beauty of business to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think for me, the beauty of business is, I think it's two things. I think it's the freedom of it, especially when I'm running like my own like agency sort of thing. Like it's the freedom of it. Like, not saying like, I'm waking up and every day is like a holiday, but like you're your own boss and you're on your
Yeah,
own time, and it's like it's so good. It's like right now, realistically, if you really, really wanted to, you could sleep all day until like 7 p.m. and do nothing, and work from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. editing.
yeah,
You can't do that in a 9 to 5. Like this, it's not doable. Um, and so that freedom of it's good as well. And it's like for me, it's like I have the option to go and just do other life stuff. Like when I need to, like for you, right? Like you're traveling and like working, but like living like a bit like nomadically. You're living like
yeah,
not in your own country, right? We couldn't do that if we were on a 9 to 5. But actually, you maybe could now because people are more flexible. But like within reason,
yeah,
I think that part of it is so good. Like for me right now, like I'm off to London a few days to go to like some networking events and stuff. Like that's part of the business, but it's like, it's that freedom of it. Like I think it's really great. And then also just like the unknown of it too.
yeah,
I quite like there's parts of it I love and parts of it I don't like. Like the unpredictability of not knowing where the next paycheck comes from can be quite daunting. And that's what retainer clients are there for.
yeah,
Um, which is like a constant struggle, and they're like the golden ticket, like having a retainer client. But like not knowing what the next project is going to be is really exciting. Like for me, I had a phone call today with a guy who is like, I don't know if I'll land the job, but I'm hoping I will, hoping I'll land it. And he's like a Wim Hof instructor, so he does like a lot of like ice baths and
yeah,
stuff, and like is starting a brand and a business around it. And I'm like, well, that's so cool. And he found me through Google through my SEO, and like like a week ago or even like 5 days ago, I didn't even know this guy existed. And like even when I got the email, I still thought it might be spam or something. And like, and now that prospect of this like new client has got me thinking about these crazy ideas. And that's so exciting. And like next week I might have something else crazy that comes through the post or like through my email or my inbox. I'm like, that's mad. And so it's like you never know where it's where you're gonna like end up with being a freelancer and stuff. And I think that's the beauty of it for me. And it's like like once again, it's all these like happy accidents or right place, right time, meeting these people, asking the right questions, and like you never know like who you're gonna meet and where it might go, and like the domino butterfly effect of everything. I think that for me, that's like super exciting. And I think in a 9 to 5 you wouldn't get that. And it's like the payoff as well. Like when it work when everything like sequences well together and like ticks over, and you land a client and the job is good and the money's great, you're like, yes, this is an absolute win. And like this year I bagged one of my biggest clients that I ever got. And like I was so like proud of myself, and I was like so gassed. I was just dancing around the house. And it was crazy. Like it's like when everything is the thing you've worked so hard to get, you finally got. And it's like, and it's also because of like off your own back and like once again like the connections and stuff, and it just feels so good. I think for me that's like the beauty of it, and that's something you can't get or capture if you're working in like a 9 to 5 job. And I think that's sort of what the beauty of it is. And there's downsides to it too, but like I think that's the same with anything. But for me at the minute, like I wouldn't really, there's not much I would trade it for. Like I enjoy it. Like I enjoy the unknown of it in a way, which
yeah.
can, like I said, can be scary, but also quite exciting.
That's a great answer. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this. Well, where can people find you? Who should reach out to you?
Yeah, so on socials on Instagram, I'm at will.georgie. So it's like, so my last name is George, but it's just George with an extra E on the end of it because someone had already stole my username. So that was great. Yeah, and then the business is called Rolling Wave Media. So yeah, we're just like online. To be fair, I need to build up so that I talk a good game about building a presence of brand, but
I do
like
the
for
same thing.
me, I'd like to think I'm the brand. So I I need to put more work into that. But yeah, the website is there, which has got a lot of my client work and stuff on it. But yeah, if people have got any questions about video, just pop me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn as well. I'm just Will George on LinkedIn. Yeah, Will George with the wave emoji, so you'll know it's me. Yeah, pop me a message. I'm more than happy to answer questions about video because it's a tricky place to navigate, especially if you're starting out. But yeah, to answer one quick question that probably a lot of people ask me is, what's the best camera I should buy? Answer, it's the one you have in your pocket, or it's the one you have available to you. So yeah, don't go out of your way spending £1,000 on a camera when your iPhone can make you like tons of money, basically.
I agree. All links will obviously be in the description and show notes. And again, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great.